Thank you.
Okay, so you might notice a little bit of a Mario theme running through the session today. That's purely because it was like my childhood favorite game, video game, and actually in adulthood it remains my favorite game. So emphasizing probably the point around play is helpful for kids as well as adults. And this statement here, how do we make learning feel like play and play feel like learning, is probably like the big question that I was looking to answer or try to explore when I first noticed and looked into video game design and how beneficial it could be for learning. You know, kids love it. We love playing games. Adults love playing games. So that's the big question that I guess will be underpinning the rest of the presentation. Now, just trying to move on to the next slide. Here we go. So the person that's really inspired all of the work that I've done to date in this area is James Paul G. So he's written loads and loads of stuff around like good digital game design. So he would say that there's 3 principles that underpin good digital game design: empowerment, problem solving, and deep understanding. And he believes that video games have potential for really deep learning and good performance as well. And yet at the same time, it's enjoyable to do, even though it's really hard sometimes. And the way they're designed through the different design features, G identifies 13 design features in good digital game design. And I recommend looking into his work if you want to have a look at those features in a little bit more detail. But these features are what makes games pleasantly frustrating, as he calls it. There's that element of the challenge is hard but doable, and effort is paying off, in his words. You know, the feedback is just in time and on demand. The way the game reacts back to what you do, and then you react back to the game. You know, there's a clear narrative in a video game as well. If we go back to Mario, it's real simple. You've got to save the princess. that's all you've got to do. And there's just so many layers to the game, and so many ways in which you might try to get to that point. And this is really what fascinated me, because I knew that growing up I had a bit of a love for playing video games. But actually, like when I got a bit older, I probably stopped playing a little bit, but then my little brother started to play. And I was just watching my brother play, and I just thought to myself, wow, like obviously how realistic games are now in terms of, you know, the functionalities, the graphics, but how they set up problems, you know, well-ordered problems, as G would say, simple to complex. And the way you're so motivated to carry on playing, even though you might lose a life, or you might like lose all of your coins, or you might fail, but you're motivated to go again. There's so much behind it that promotes learning. So G's work has massively inspired me, and I thought to myself, right, how can we utilize all of the stuff that he's done to benefit coaching? Because that's where I guess the world that I was mostly coming from in terms of football coaching. And that kind of leads me on to the next part, around this digital video games approach. So whilst we have these features that G describes as good game design, they're very conceptual. You know, I've mentioned some there, around well-ordered problems, pleasantly frustrating, meaning as action. They're all quite conceptual and not that easy to think about what does that look like on the pitch. So that was my job. How do I make this real? How do I help us as coaches to apply it? I just really highlighted at the top, it's not gamification. I think a lot of people might think that utilizing video games approach in our coaching sessions is just gamification, and I think that's a completely different topic area that is probably for another webinar, but it is different. And the difference is that it's a coaching approach which really focuses on helping people to become good at learning. Because going back to the first slide, you know, how do we make learning feel like play and play feel like learning? And video games really promote and help people to become good at learning. Remember, there's no coach in a video game. It's you in the game, and you're consistently getting better because of that. And ultimately, it's about this strategic understanding. So you put this on the football pitch. You're hopefully looking at players who consider the when and the why, and are flexible in their actions and their decisions. But we'll get onto that a little bit later. I would also just like to highlight is what I'm about to talk about is definitely just one way, one method. And, as coaches, we all know there's many tools that we need in our toolbox to engage and develop players. And this is just one of those. So metacognitive game skill. Now, this is something that is probably sitting behind the why. So why would I use a video games approach to coaching? Well, this is the why. So, like if I want a player to be really in control and aware of what they're thinking as they're playing, then I'd probably be wanting to develop these areas. So when I'm playing in the game, am I able to plan and replan my next move? And this is playful. This is playful because remember, invasion games are about outwitting your opponent. So if you think about that in a playful way, it's quite a, yes, it's challenging, and it gets you thinking, and it really does, it's difficult to do in an invasion game, to be thinking about what I'm going to do next and then changing my plan. It's difficult. But the playful nature of it is that it's you against someone else. It's you thinking about, oh, how can I get one over of them? Like how can I be cunning and intelligent and try something different? So the next metacognitive skill is setting problems. So again, like, am I able to, yes, solve problems as I'm in this game, but on the flip, is my solution going to cause a problem for the opponent? Is it going to try and make it harder for them? So coming back down to this outwitting of the opponent, it's that social interaction, it's that recognition that I'm against someone. Like, okay, we might not be measuring success based upon who wins and loses all the time, but the aim is to make it hard. And I think back to the days where I used to play with my brother, playing Mario Kart, Sonic the Hedgehog is another one of my favorites, Mortal Kombat. I'm always thinking of stuff that I can do that's going to hurt him, because that's the game. That's the playful side of the game. And then the last one is finding out some useful information. So in order to do the above, I probably need to be quite selective and attentive to what stuff I can find out about the person I'm trying to outwit, about the team I'm trying to outwit, about the general game, the environment that I'm in. I always use the example. I used to play centre forwards, and I used to fancy myself. I used to be quite quick. I'm not quick anymore, but I used to see if I was quicker than the centre back quite early on in the game. Just used to try and run in behind, even though I knew I wasn't going to get to a ball. But I just wanted to see if I could outpace the centre back person that was marking me, and that's quite informative for me, because then that's going to inform probably my, going back to plan and replan. That's going to inform my next move, and it might help me to set some problems for him or her as well. So yeah, that's the why behind the digital video games approach. Influenced by G's good game design. And I just think this bit's really important because, I guess we're all really passionate about creating environments where people are learning, are enjoying learning, are progressing and developing. And I think sometimes video game design might be perceived as just a tool that engages and is fun and is enjoyable, but that's all great, and hopefully that happens. But the ultimate piece here is it's about learning and game understanding. I've obviously been framing this around Mario because, as I said, it's my favorite game. It's probably a good point in the presentation to kind of get you guys to think about your favorite games, video games. So, that doesn't have to be something on a console. It could be something as simple as a game that's been downloaded to your mobile phone that you play on the train, just to while the time away. And I think as soon as you get it, well, this definitely applies to myself, is as soon as I start to play more video games, it really opens my mind to, whoa, there is so many possibilities in this game. There is so much creativity going on in terms of how it's designed, but so much intricacy in terms of the clever ways in which learning is promoted here. So I just like, if this is something that makes you curious around video games and how it can help in coaching, I'd advise just to play some video games. You know, go back to when you was a kid or when you used to play, and feel it, because it is very much around that. It is a feeling to start with. It's that frustration, it's that enjoyment, it's that like want for more, it's that sometimes addictive, it's the social interaction that you get even if you're playing on your own. It's the idea of having a character, choosing someone, coming out of the real world, having some abilities and like traits that in the real world I don't have. And it's just such a cool way of looking at a situation. So I guess in the digital video games approach, the first principle when we're looking to design a session using this approach is you ask, what's the mission? You know, so not what's the learning outcomes or what's the objective or what topic. Are we going to do combination play, or we're going to do like some stuff around defending in our box? No. It's just, what's the mission? So think really broad, take out the sport specific stuff that us as coaches, we're usually trained to design sessions around, and remember the metacognitive game skills, because that's the stuff we're developing here. So what's the mission? Might be something as simple as to stay in the final of the World Cup for the longest. You know, you might have a 4-team tournament going on where you can progress from the last 16 to the semi-final, to the quarterfinals, to the semi-finals, to the final, and then like you just got to try and stay in the final for as long as you can. You know, there's no technical and tactical focus. We're just playing the game. I wouldn't switch on Sonic and be practicing my jumps. I just switch on Sonic to play Sonic. Level up. So think about how we can look at the game in chunks, in simple to complex levels. And in invasion games, you know, like we know time, space, numbers are usually some factors that can dictate that complexity. So this is where, especially as a team sport, we need to be clever around manipulation of that. Level ups are important because progress is clear. And that's another reason why playing games is so motivating and helps us to become better more quickly, is because we know when something's worked and when something hasn't worked. So thinking about that in the way we design our practice, how do we cleverly manipulate those factors I just spoke about there, time, space, and numbers? The next factor here is earning a superpower, often confused with giving a superpower or just helping someone that looks like they're struggling. It's definitely not that. It is very much, we're going to chuck some superpowers into the game design, and we hope that players will realize when they need the power, why they need it, and figure out how to use it effectively. Because as G says, they're temporary. It makes you more effective for a short period of time. And this is where we can be ultra unrealistic. You know, let's be unrealistic. Let's chuck in a superpower that, will never happen in competition. You know, like one of the best ones I ever heard about was the invisibility cloak. Can't be offside. Love it. Yeah, obviously it's not going to happen on a match day, but it's not the point. The point is that you're helping the player to understand when they need it and how to use it best for that short period of time, and to see the game in a new light, through a different lens that they would never have seen it otherwise. You know, you can look at invincibility and stuff like that. Well, what happens if if I pick up the power, which could just be a bib on the floor, and I can pick it up when my team have the ball? What happens if that makes me invincible for my first 2 touches of the ball? Wow, that's going to make me see the game different. That's cool. That's going to work on that metacognitive game skills. Using the pause button. This is a real, I'd say, in education, in coaching, it's a real tough one, you know, for adults and kids. How much have we ever had before an opportunity to stop and start learning ourselves? You know, we're used to a coach or a teacher doing that for us. So when we need a break, when we need to, you know, make the task more challenging, you know, how often do kids say, you know what, I'm enjoying this, but I want to make it harder. I want to fail some more so I can learn some more, you know, or I think we need some help here. I think we need to cheat. I think we need to change the way the game is designed to make it harder for them, or easier for us. Do you know what? I need to talk to the coach. I want to clue off the coach. I want to hear what the coach thinks here. It's probably quite different for coaches because we feel like we want to be the guide all the time, and we want to be the person stopping and starting. But this is cool because it slows it down for the players, slows learning down a bit when needed. And coming back to those metacognitive game skills, can I be aware and in control of my thinking as I'm thinking it? Sometimes, therefore, we need to do stuff a little bit more slowly and at their tempo and their pace, in order for them to develop that metacognition. And then the last of the principles is saving progress. We spoke about how important progress is in video games and making it explicit. It's also important that it can be saved. As G says, it's good for risk taking. You know, if I've achieved this much, I can't lose it now because I'm up to here, I'm up to this level. So whatever I try to overcome the next problem, what I've done before can't be lost. And that's really key. I also think there's an important part here around coming back to the game, coming back to it in the future. So in a football session, for example, we might train every Tuesday and we might finish the session on level 5, and that team might finish the session on level 4. Come back to it the next week. Try and complete the game. Try and get to the boss level. Try and master it. Try and have a chance to see how far you can get in the game, rather than always maybe having to start from something new or starting from scratch, or you know, we want to be at a good challenge point every time, an appropriate challenge point every time. And you don't have to look at it by session when you save progress. We can, you know, like you can have saves in the actual game. So Sonic was a really good one where you'd get halfway through the level and you'd ring the bell. You're like, yes, I've got to the bell, I've rung the bell. If I die after this point, at least on this level, at least I can come back to the bell. I don't have to come back to the start of this level. And that's just another cool feature to integrate into your session, you know, during a level. So there's loads of ways that you can look at it. So this is just an example. I thought, you know, there's a lot of talking, there's a lot of me talking about these concepts and how it could look. I thought, why not kind of show an example? It's not the perfect example. There's stuff I would change and I'm still thinking about. But I just wanted to show you an example that I tried myself with the under-8s group of players. And we played this twice a week for the whole summer. It was intense. They loved it. They wanted to come back for more. And we started off, you know, like real simple, like level 1. It's just football, by the way. We're just playing some football games. It's a 14 tournament. And, you know, the boss level, no one got to it yet. So it ended up going through the whole summer. And it's a real simple, like, it's not overcomplicated. It's, as you can see, it's the game. It's an invasion game. It's directional. It's one team against the other. You'll see the 4 C's, which are the pauses in the bottom here: cheat, change, clue, challenge. So when a team paused, that's what they could choose from to utilize. We use the ghost as the invisibility cloak to play offside in this. So this is just an example, and something that I guess to highlight as well is in the 4 C's, where we talk about challenge, you know, when kids might want to make it more difficult. It's not a technical or tactical challenge that you set them. And this was something I was trying to get my head around. I was thinking, oh, I'm going to ask them to play off one touch or one touch finish, or, you know, thinking of all this technical, but I had to remind myself, we're not focusing on the technical and tactical, we're focusing on metacognition, you know, like it says in the mission, to stay in the final of the World Cup. There's no tech-tac information there. but they're getting it, the tech tack, because they're playing the game. So the challenge is to play in 3/4 of the area when in possession. Like, I'm not talking about dribbling or passing or shooting. Like, I'm just going to give them less space to play in. So, you know, I think that's the big thing for me, was to get my head around how do we look at the game from a metacognitive game skills point of view, and not just through the lens of football.